And we are live. Welcome to Ask Me About My Draculas. If you are unfamiliar with the show, the basic premise is we will explain supernatural television, books, and movies to you. One person on the show and every episode has not seen our topic of the week, and I am Kel McDonald, one of your hosts. I do comics that you can find at kelmcdonald.com, and I'm currently running a Kickstarter for my long-running webcomic, Sorcery 101. You should back it.
And I'm Ma'at Crook. I am the co-host who has not seen the show we're going to talk about today, and that's my dog, To the Pants, making noise. She will quiet down soon.
And our guest this week is...
Hi, I'm Kory Bing. I do a webcomic called Skin Deep about monster people, and I also have a Kickstarter going on right now for my third book, Greetings from Dog Patch, and you can see it on my screen right here. It's nice and fancy.
So today we are going to talk about the movie Daybreakers, which came out in 2009. When Ma'at's done playing with her dog, she can tell us what she thinks Daybreakers is about.
I was trying to make my dog quiet. I think that Daybreakers is about this. I think it's about some vampires that can actually go out in the sun.
Okay.
It's not completely wrong, I guess.
That's a fair assessment based on the title. It's actually not about that. It's about dumb, wasted potential.
It could have been really good, but instead it was bad.
All right, Kory, do you want to start off?
It's about... Daybreakers is about... what is it? Ethan Hawke is the main character, I guess.
Yes.
And it's about a society that has, like, most of its population has turned into vampires, and so the society has reformed to cater to vampires. And there is a lack of human blood now because there's a lack of human beings now.
Vampire. Yeah.
Yeah, because everyone's a vampire. And so Ethan Hawke is a hematologist trying to synthesize fake blood so people don't starve to death and turn into weird bat monsters.
Yeah, it's like basically the vampires in this, if they get super hungry, they kind of turn into zombie bat monster things.
So is Ethan Hawke a vampire?
Yeah.
Everyone's a vampire.
Everyone's a vampire. And that is where the good ideas for the movie end. And because the world building is really interesting and cool. Like, all of the cities they're all like subterranean now, or like they're connected by like the roads are connected by all the cars have like UV tinting on them so they can't so they can drive out in the day and not affect their passengers. And like a really famous coffee chain has like 5% blood in it and stuff like that. And it's like the whole like world building with how to cater to a world full of vampires is really interesting. And then they make it into like some action crappy Matrix movie.
Yeah, they were like, this interesting conflict we've established where the vampires need to find a way to synthesize blood because there's no more people blood. That really interesting conflict, we have decided that is boring. So what we need is for a small ragtag group of humans to fight the vampires.
So the humans are the Daybreakers?
Well, no, because then you get into, like, the leader of the humans apparently used to be a vampire, and so...
Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, William Dafoe plays the leader of the humans, and
his name is Elvis.
He used to be a vampire, and what happened is he got in a car accident, was flung from his car, was lit on fire by the sun, and somehow that burnt the vampirism out of him. And then he landed in the ocean before he burnt to death, and that somehow cured him of vampireness.
That makes no sense.
Yep.
It doesn't.
Also, the whole vampire plague was started by an infected vampire bat.
Oh, no!
So there's some serious, like, I don't think that makes sense. Like, you didn't actually, like, think about these things.
No. And then also, like, the company that Ethan Hawke is working for, the head of the company is Sam Neill, who, like, doesn't want to find a cure, or doesn't want to find synthetic blood, just wants to get more humans or something. I can't remember exactly what it was.
Like, his plan is to kill all humans, which really just exacerbates the problem.
Yeah, his plan doesn't make any sense. He's just evil for the sake of being evil.
Yeah, because I'm not going to help any of the vampires.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's a vampire. You think he'd be, like, invested in this, maybe we should save the other vampires thing.
And he acts like he is.
And,
and then also another thing that's just silly is that all of Ethan Hawke's cures that he's trying, or not cures, but like synthetic blood that he's trying to make ends up exploding vampires.
Oh no!
It's like, I'm gonna try this out. Let's inject this into a test subject. Oh no, he exploded in the most gory way possible for this movie.
Here's my picture of research scientist vampire Ethan Hawke.
That's not far off at all.
Yeah. So you have, like, Ethan Hawke meets the humans, and they're all like, oh, well, you want to save everybody from this lack of blood stuff, like, so we're going to cure you and make you not a vampire anymore, and then maybe we should spread the vampire cure. But if you think about it, they have, like, restructured all of society to cater to vampires, so they probably don't have, like, a farming system anymore set up.
Yeah, the world they set up does not cater to the plot of the movie at all. Like, it's,
so this, like, turning everyone back into humans doesn't make anyone not fucked anymore. It makes them like, oh, well, now they're starving in a different way because there's no more, like, food supply for humans.
Oh no.
And I'm trying to think of some other stupid things that happened. There's a whole, like, I haven't watched this movie in a while, and I refused to watch it again before this show because I did not want to watch it again. And there was, like, some, like, big fight scene that was kind of like just The Matrix, only with vampires, it reminded me of. Just a lot of just fighting for no reason and killing people and people exploding in blood.
Then they find out that, like, if a vampire eats a person who has been cured of vampirism, then that spreads the cure.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I forgot about that. I forgot about that.
So, like, you have the way they stop evil Sam Neill is they trick him into feeding off Ethan Hawke, and then he's cured, and then they tie him up and send him down an elevator shaft, so all the, like, vampire, with, like, his throat slit, like, slightly, not so it's, like, gushing blood, but, like, so there's just enough blood that it's not going to heal real quickly. So then all, like, the super hungry security guards, like, go crazy and rip Sam Neill apart, but then they all get cured, and then they all get eaten, and, like, so this is not a good solution.
They spread the cure by killing a bunch of people.
No.
Yeah.
And then also, there's also that plot twist that one of the humans in the band was Sam Neill's daughter.
Yeah, and then he turns her into a vampire, and she's all like, fuck you, I don't want to be a vampire, and then, like, intentionally starves herself so she turns into one of the bat zombies.
A subsider.
What is it called?
They're called subsiders. Because they live even further below the ground than the other vampires. They live on the subside. And so then she's like I guess one of the ways they get rid of all the subsiders is that they all like they round them up and then chain them together and then walk them out into the light.
Yeah,
And
because
so
they're kind of like feral animals, so they can't realize, like, oh, this is a trap.
yeah, and so like Sam Neill has to watch his daughter die in the sun and blah blah blah, and it's all very sad for him.
Except it's not sad at all because we don't give a shit about any of these characters.
No, we don't.
They didn't do a good job with character development.
No, they didn't do a good job with anything. Like I wouldn't have been so bad if the original, like, because like there is a good idea underneath all of this movie,
if
and they don't do anything with it.
Dangle this interesting idea and plot thread at you, and then rip it away because they decided that wasn't exciting enough.
It needed to be more. They wanted it to be more like Underworld.
Yeah.
Oh. Did it come out around the same time as?
When did Underworld come out?
I have no idea.
Let me look that up right now.
I think it might have come out like at one of the times the Underworld sequels were coming out.
In the meantime, here's my drawing of a vampire being blown up.
I like his shirt.
Ah, thanks. That's definitely a vampire shirt. Clearly.
Clearly, yes. The first Underworld came out in 2003, and this movie came out in 2009.
So yeah, so this was like in the midst of all the like shitty Underworld prequels. I mean, and sequels and shit.
Yeah, like the supernatural action fighty movies.
But yeah, the elevator scene is the very, very Matrixy fight.
Yeah, I couldn't remember exactly what happened, but I remember going, "This is they're just trying really hard to be the Matrix."
Yeah.
What's Ethan Hawke doing during all of this part?
He
I don't even remember. I know that he tricked Sam Neill into becoming human again, and then they fed Sam Neill to all the soldiers, and that's like it.
He does something with fighting though, doesn't he? At the end.
I know that his brother is one of the soldiers, and his brother like attacked William Dafoe and fed off William Dafoe, which is how they figured out that the cure spreads when vampires try to feed off cured people blood.
I need to figure out.
I don't understand how that works.
No.
But
no, and it's going to create a much bigger problem for the vampires because they're not going to know who's lunch and who could.
Yeah, and it just kind of ends on we know how to make people human now.
Huh.
And it's like that doesn't really achieve anything.
No. Like the very beginning of the movie is the most interesting part because it's setting up the whole world and showing like the different things that the society has done to cater towards its majority vampire population, and like Willem Dafoe's character when he was still a vampire, like one of the things he did was he was one of the inventors of like the UV protection in cars, and he was an engineer or was he not an engineer? He was just he was a mechanic. And so he's talking about like all this different stuff they had to figure out for humans or for vampires to live in this society. It was really interesting, and I liked it a lot. And like the fact that Ethan Hawke is a blood scientist trying to figure out like the scientific side of being a vampire and stuff, and just it wasn't about that. It wasn't about that at all.
And then also, I remember that they established that vampires can eat animal blood.
Yeah, because Ethan Hawke eats animal blood because he refuses to eat human blood.
But it's like, okay, so they're out of human blood, but animal blood is fine. So why do they still have a problem?
Yeah.
There's still animals. There's still plenty of animals.
And
as a scientist, he could have said, "Here is the solution."
Yeah, they don't. There's also it's like some scene where like it's another very Matrixy scene where they show like this whole like farming area of the blood company where they have a bunch of humans just hooked up into machines to get blood out of them all the time or something, and it's just like row and row and row of these like unconscious humans hooked up to machines, blood machines and stuff, and that's like just the reason, like that's just Sam Neill just like, yeah, we're an evil company. We do this. This is how we do it. And it's just bad. And the whole animal blood thing is brought up only to show that Ethan Hawke's character likes humans. And then like it's never brought up again as a way to like a substitute for human blood.
Yeah. And I also
obviously it works fine. Ethan Hawke is fine.
I remember his brother talking about how he was excited that he got chimpanzee blood because that's closer to humans and I guess tastier.
So it's not just Ethan Hawke's character, it's another vampire.
It's like, so tons of vampires could, in theory, just be drinking, like, animal blood, and their problem would be solved.
And it might have been, was Ethan Hawke, he was kind of turning into a subsider. Was it because he was drinking the animal blood or because he was just not drinking much blood at all?
I don't remember.
I can't remember. He was like slowly kind of like slowly in a way like, oh, my ears are a little bit longer right now. I need to get that checked. But then that never really turns into anything. He doesn't turn into a subsider or anything at the end.
Yeah, it's like there are signs that someone is going through, like, not eating blood problems. And they happen slowly enough, except in convenient plot device, Sam Neill's daughter turning into one.
Yeah.
So, like, if someone was turning into a subsider or whatever, they could, in theory, be, like, they had time to fix it and prevent themselves from...
Yeah.
It sounds like this is just like the intro movie that was made so that they could make some sequels.
Except that the way it ended didn't really leave it open to do anything interesting.
So nothing interesting happened in the first one.
Yeah. Like, if it was an intro movie to, like, more Vampire Society stories, that could be interesting, but it ended with people are going to turn into humans now and be just shit out of luck.
Yeah, they'll just not have any food or any, like, system in place to take care of them. And okay, now you bring up coffee raises an interesting question. If they have coffee, that means they're growing coffee somewhere. And how are vampires who can't go out in the sun growing anything?
That's a good question. Yeah, because that was another interesting part of it, because as the blood supplies were getting lower and lower, like the main coffee company like had a promise that at least 5% of its coffee was blood, but then they had to keep like lowering it to 4%, 3%, and it was causing riots. And I thought that was interesting, like the whole, like, we promised 5%, but now we can't do it, and people are pissed off because they can't get their blood where they wanted to get it from before. And I thought that was really cool, but they didn't do anything with that.
This movie should be called Wasted Potential Breakers.
Wasted Potential, the movie.
So what would y'all do to make it better?
I would have focused on them trying to, like, develop a cure or whatever. Not develop a cure, but develop, like, that fake blood thing. Though that would, I feel like, probably be a dry movie, and it wouldn't have nearly as much explosions.
I think it'd be really cool if it just was a different genre of movie, because like the world it's set in is really interesting, and you could do a lot of stuff with that, but just it's not very good for like an underworld type action kill 'em all movie. If it was more like a mystery or like suspense or something with trying to figure out how to like a blood substitute while also everyone around you is starting to turn into kind of like zombie bat monsters, and you're trying to stop that. And
like, okay, so they established that Sam Neill is the evil corporation man. Maybe if, like, they went, like, the suspense route, and then vampire scientist guy, he develops a cure, or, like, the synthetic blood, and then he finds out that Sam Neill is maybe withholding it, so that way he can, like, jack up the price, and, like, basically he wants to withhold it till shit gets critical, and then make a shit ton of money.
It could be an interesting, like, just political sort of thing of this society that's set up all around vampires, and like, yeah, and you can't just cure people of vampirism because society will collapse, and society is going to collapse if it doesn't figure out how to feed its people, and like just going into more of the super like interesting details about what would really happen if your entire society was vampires and people weren't dying, and like
right. So like if they had kind of like if they needed a main sort of focus to or antagonist to solve, because I can understand if someone was like this search for synthetic blood, like, while it is an interesting conflict, what I could understand someone being like, the movie would be really dry and not like, it would be hard to keep someone's focus on for an hour on that thing. Because I feel like it would be a lot of people in a laboratory talking about what they're doing.
The way I want to remake it would not be a summer blockbuster or whatever it was. It would be, I probably wouldn't have made as much money as the actual movie did, but it'd be a better movie. Because the actual movie was fairly successful, I think.
Really?
I think.
I had not even heard of it.
I'm trying to think.
It probably did average.
As of October 2010, the box gross was $51 million. And its opening weekend in the United States, Daybreakers opened at number 4 behind Avatar, Sherlock Holmes, and Alvin and the Chipmunks, the Squeakquel.
That probably has a lot to say about what was out at the time.
Oh, yeah, well, Avatar just came out, so
Yeah.
no one else was watching any other movies
Yeah.
at the time. So it's like, oh, what movie's going on? Oh, it's Avatar. What other movies are out? Who cares?
Yeah.
And then, yeah, so I feel like if they didn't get so hung up on this needs to be an action movie full of explosions, full of a scene where a guy flies from his car, bursts into flames, and then falls in the ocean.
It was a river. It wasn't an ocean. It was a river.
Oh, I thought it was the ocean.
I'm pretty sure it was a river or something. I don't know. It doesn't really matter.
And the vampires were just trying to stop the cure from going around.
No.
Yeah. No, they were just
They didn't even know about the cure. They were just
trying to kill all humans.
That makes even less sense.
Yeah,
I
hey, baby, you
know.
want to kill all humans?
the least amount of sense.
Yeah, because no one knew that Willem Dafoe's character was an ex-vampire, now human. No one ever heard of that before, or that there was a possibility for a cure. And as soon as Ethan Hawke heard about that, he's like, well, shit, let's make everyone human. Like, that will fix all the problems.
And then I remember that poses an interesting question of like, so feeding off William Dafoe makes people turn into not vampires anymore. What if the evil vampires had caught William Dafoe and then hooked him up to that blood harvesting machine? They would have had an entire supply of blood tainted with, like, suddenly people weren't vampires anymore.
Is that how they spread it, though? Because there was a whole thing with, like, Ethan Hawke in some sort of, like, beer distillery.
Well, no, it was basically so
trying to burn the vampire out of him.
By burning the vampirism out of him, the same way William Dafoe was cured.
So, like, but if it spread through...
But then Ethan Hawke's brother shows up and bites William Dafoe, and then is suddenly not a vampire.
Oh, they didn't know that it could be spread through that. I'm like, why did they go through that whole deal if they could just bite Willem Dafoe and then they're cured? But if they didn't know
Once they found that out, that's when they decided to feed Sam Neill to
the movie was just full of just, like, really complicated things that didn't make any sense. And not going, but then also oversimplifying things that did make sense, and like the whole, like going really complicated on how to get rid of the vampirism with burning it out of your body and blah blah blah. But then also no one brought up that if we're all human, we still have the same problems.
It's like the more interesting part would come after. Okay, so what do you do now? If we eat humans, we most likely will end up having to turn human. So now we've got to eat animals.
Yeah. And
how do we live and how do we coexist with these humans?
It's one of those movies where if it was 100% stupid the whole way through, it would have been fine. But every time I was watching it, I saw the glimmer of someone worked really hard on the world building, but then someone else took that from them and then made a stupid plot over it. And I was just I want to watch this other movie that someone else obviously wanted to tell but wasn't allowed to. And I just got so frustrated watching it. I was like, I don't care about this. I want to watch the cool parts. It was just stupid from start to finish. I'd be like, okay, fine, it's a stupid movie. But I'm just like, oh, you fucking movie! Be good! You've got Sam Neill. You've got Ethan Hawke.
Almost good. They almost got it to good.
It looked really good. Like the look of the movie was very kind of like grayscale looking, almost black and white kind of color scheme.
Except when it was like during the day, which was a neat sort of contrast.
Yeah, like the kind of world that the people would have to get used to living in at nighttime all the time. And then because during the day it was super bright and colorful. And that was cool. I like that. But no, the movie wasn't about that. The movie kept going, here's something interesting. You only want to go over here? Well, you're not going to go over here. We're going to go...
Oh, something interesting, but let's focus on this vampire chimpanzee exploding.
Yeah.
Let's focus on Sam Neill just being evil, because he was evil in Event Horizon, so that's all the explanation we really need for why this character would be a bad guy and not want good things to happen for his company. He's just an evil CEO.
The fact that he was evil CEO, but he was an evil CEO that didn't seem to care about money, and I was like, I feel like if you're gonna do the evil CEO thing, money is the easiest motivation.
Yeah, his character motivation, I couldn't figure out what it was supposed to be. It was just like, I'm gonna be just a bad guy because I'm an evil CEO.
I remember him sort of trying to hide that there was synthetic blood or whatever.
Why wouldn't he want synthetic blood? And why wouldn't he want his company to be the one that came up with synthetic blood?
That's why I think, if I was going to fix the movie, I would have, you establish the conflict of they need the synthetic blood, and then they develop it, and then it, mysteriously goes missing, and then they find out that Sam Neill did it because he's withholding it so he can charge more for it.
That'd be a lot more interesting, yeah. Because, in the way the movie was set up, he didn't even really care, which his company could have made $1 bajillion if he was the first one to come out with synthetic blood. But he was just no, I want to keep farming these humans.
So that was the only reason to have the bad corporation in there, is just to...
I can't remember if there was something else, that and that his daughter was a human.
Yeah.
And that was that was it. I can't remember. If something else was happening, I super can't remember what it was, because all I remember from his character was just...
I remember the movie started with a girl killing herself.
Was it? I can't remember that part.
Well, yeah, that's how the movie starts. It was a vampire girl basically writing a suicide note about how she couldn't take that nothing changes.
That'd be a really cool focus on a movie, too, because, did they go into the movie, can they have children anymore?
No, they can't.
Okay, so that's the thing. Nothing changes, nobody dies, nobody ages.
So, the girl's suicide note is basically, she couldn't take, looking at the same thing every single day and nothing changing after so many decades. And
that would be a really cool basis of a movie, too.
And then she goes outside during the day and dies. And that's how they start the movie, which is why I thought, this will be an interesting movie. But they no, let's throw some explosions in there.
Yeah, it could have been the kind of science weird suspense movie, kind of like Gattaca or something, only with vampires, of this weird society that seems good but isn't, and trying to figure out people who are on the fringes of that, who don't really like the society, what they're doing to, I don't know, something that's not this movie.
Yeah.
Here's my picture of Ethan Hawke's brother, trying to decide if you want to drink Willem Dafoe's blood or chimp blood.
I like how your caricatures really get down to the Willem Dafoe is just squinty eyes and cheekbones.
Yeah, and his pointy nose. Yep.
Perfect. I love it.
Boy, thank you. You inspired me.
But yeah, it's a movie that it's not super terrible, but it's really disappointing.
So is it worth watching to make fun of, to laugh at?
No, it will just frustrate you. I
Yeah,
feel
it's just frustrating.
like.
Like, if it was really bad, then you can like laugh at it and make fun of it. But it's got enough good things going for it where you just like, why is this the way that it is? Obviously, some people who had talent worked on this movie, so why?
Yeah, I feel like that's the line when it comes to like really, really bad movies. Kind of everything has to be bad for it to get to funny. Whereas, there are some bad movies where like the cinematography or like the camera directions are really good. So even though like the writing is terrible and all the actors are phoning everything in, like the movie will itself be beautiful, and that results in kind of just a really boring movie.
I felt that way about the first Hulk movie. Because like it's obvious that the people who were working on the special effects and the editing were working really hard at it, but then nobody else was. And it's kind of like with this movie. The people who made up the world and the people, like the movie itself is gorgeous. It's just no one, like the writers just didn't want to make the movie that would have been best for the setting, and instead wanted to make explosions and
I
gore.
feel like maybe the first draft was probably interesting, and then someone cut it up and put a bunch of shitty action movie scenes.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be interested to see what the first draft of that movie was like. Was it based on anything, or was it? Because I feel like that would have been a good like. No, yeah, it was a new one. It wasn't based on anything. I feel like it'd be a good like comic series or something, like a lot more long running. Have more chance to kind of go into the politics and the.
I feel like if it was a collection of shorts,
that'd be cool.
That would be really interesting, kind of like the way World War Z is in the books.
Yeah. Another movie that.
I haven't seen that movie. I
Don't.
know that the book, though, is like a collection of short stories rather than one big, like, long zombie story.
And the movie is just like taking a dump on the book. It's just like, hey, you want this stuff? We're not gonna. It's like the I Am Robot version of zombies, where there's like, here's a book. It's based on a book that's full of cool short stories, but we're gonna focus on one of those stories and then completely misinterpret the meaning of it and turn it into an action thing. And then,
though I feel like iRobot did a better job.
iRobot did do a better job, but if you read the books, you're just like, what is this?
Yeah, I feel like iRobot successfully made a decent movie better than Daybreakers.
Well, yeah, I think so too.
It's the feel of the movie and the whole lab and the blood testing and stuff reminds me of a vampire movie that I watched with the guy from Highlander in it or something.
Guy from what?
Highlander in it? I'm trying to remember what it was.
Do you remember the plot at all?
No, I don't want to give it away in case we talk about it.
Oh.
So, our episode's kind of going short, so if you want to talk about that one, we can make this a double feature.
Double feature.
I don't remember enough of it to really talk about it. I could do The Hunger.
I haven't seen The Hunger.
Yeah, tell us about The Hunger.
I don't know anything about The Hunger.
Oh my goodness!
Wait, real quick, I'm going to show you kind of a screenshot of what the whole like vampire world looks like to show how it was all kind of monochromatic and Google image search, you are not being friendly. So here, Ma'at, can you see that?
Yeah.
That's the human farming.
Yeah, so that's like the whole movie is kind of this sort of monochromatic bluish, except when they go outside in the daytime.
Oh, here's a good picture of one of the Subsiders and how silly they look.
We can't see it. We're only seeing it.
I know. I had to bring it over.
Oh.
That's a Subsider?
Yeah, that's a Subsider.
The having wings?
Well,
Well,
they grow wings and they lose their hair.
Bat monsters, so they need to live underground, but they also need bat wings.
Yeah.
do they fly?
No, but their feet have like toes on them, so they can hang upside down.
That's pretty awesome. That's very Lost Boys.
Yes.
Yeah.
And yes, definitely. It's so silly. Let's see what else we got.
Someone sent us a comment that was, William Dafoe is apparently the cure to unfathomable bloodthirst.
Here's a picture of just like the people in the society just kind of hanging out. It's interesting. Like, so it's all underground.
These are humans?
Yeah, no, these are the vampires in just kind of just going to work.
They have to work?
Yeah, it's like just regular society. They go to their jobs, and like there's big signs behind like to capture humans because they need blood. And
why would you even bother being a vampire if you had to go to work?
Well, it's everyone's a vampire, so it kind of seems like no one really has a choice.
Yeah, after a while, just like either I become a vampire or I also am food. So I guess I should have become a vampire.
Yeah, you either end up in that blood farm thing or you're a vampire.
And like all the cities are kind of like underground mall sort of looking with the ceilings and fake lights, and it was really cool looking. I thought it looked really. It was the
Ma'a, tell us about The Hunger. Let's talk about a good movie. Would you call The Hunger a good movie?
Yes. Yes, I would. I very much would. Just from the opening scene itself, it opens up with Peter Murphy standing in front of the screen, dancing all sexy, dum, 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 singing Bela Lugosi's Dead, Undead. That's how it starts out. Do y'all know Bela Lugosi?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what year was this movie made?
83.
Okay, so, okay.
It's directed by Tony Scott. He's the brother of Sir Ridley Scott.
Oh.
So, it's set in the 80s. And
I already want to watch this. I love 80s vampire movies.
And, like, the whole first scene, you just get Peter Murphy this close to the screen, dancing. And then it turns out that they're in a club. And I would love to go to the club that had Bauhaus performing.
I'm not surprised I haven't heard of this. I'm usually up and up on the 80s sci-fi horror supernatural movies.
It's going to get better. Let me tell you about the actors. Well, so they're in the club, and there's tons of shoulder pads and Aquanet going on, people dancing all jerky and not like that, though, but trying to look really cool, smoking cigarettes. And David Bowie is in the crowd with Catherine Deneuve, and she's a sultry French actress. And they're checking out the crowd, looking for the hookup. And David Bowie's character is named John Blaylock, and Catherine's character is named Miriam Blaylock. They're a couple.
Mm-hmm.
And they both spot this heterosexual couple dancing together from afar, and all David Bowie does is just wave at the guy. The guy waves back, and then they're all at the Blaylock house. That's all it takes is for David Bowie to wave, and then you get an invitation to his house.
So is David Bowie like a main character in this movie?
Uh-huh.
I didn't know that. How have I never heard this movie before?
Yeah. And so all four of these people are at the Blaylock's house, and for some reason there's a projector shining just a light on the screen, no movie. Just a light on the wall. And one of the lady from the club, she starts dancing in front of it. There's a lot of smoking going on in this movie, too. And then David Bowie says to her that there's no ice, and for some reason that's the cue for the two of them to go into the kitchen and start making out. And Miriam and the guy from the club are making out in the living room. And there's a lot of cut scenes with Peter Murphy still singing, and then there's some monkeys in a cage that flash onto the screen, and the monkeys are growling and biting, and then there's more smoking of cigarettes and some grinding going on between Miriam and the guy, and then David or John. I'm gonna do that a lot. I'm gonna say John and David for that character. For David Bowie and his character.
I just go by the character or the actor's name because I can't remember any of the names.
Yeah, I certainly wasn't going to like refresh my memory on Daybreaker characters.
Yeah.
Oh, but this movie is one of my all-time favorite movies and vampire movies. So.
Oh, I never heard of it. I cannot believe.
I think that clearly we need a movie night because I have also never heard of it. Which I'm gonna tell you that I was just on Chris Sims' podcast where he tried to mention like shitty old urban fantasy things and ask if I had seen them or not, trying to stump me, and I had seen all the ones that he mentioned.
Ah, it's a little bit hard to get to purchase, but Netflix does have it.
Netflix has it. How have I not seen that?
So when you say Netflix has it,
instant though.
What?
They don't have it instant.
Oh, that's why then.
The disc.
I haven't rented a disc for Netflix in ages.
We are going to have to do a movie night.
If we do it soon, I still have the disc. So anyway, there's lots of grinding going on, and then part of the little quick cut scenes, and this is, by the way, Tony Scott's very first movie, and before that he was doing a lot of commercials. So it does have a very artsy feel. So one of the little cuts is this Ankh necklace gets ripped off, and a little sheath is pulled off the bottom of the Ankh. So it's a little tiny Ankh knife. and the Ankh knife cuts this throat. And then you get little cutscenes of Miriam sucking on the guy's throat, and John, I think he cut her leg, the lady's leg, and starts sucking on her leg. And then it's revealed that Miriam and John are vampires.
Amazing.
And then we jump to this laboratory. And here's where another awesome actor comes in. A lab tech is running to get Dr. Sarah Roberts, who is played by Susan Sarandon.
I love her.
And she has desperately seeking Susan hair that she, throughout the entire movie, runs her fingers through over and over again. It's her thing. So the lab tech takes her to this cage, and tells her that, he's being weird. I don't know what was going on. And there in the cage is a monkey with her throat cut, just bitten out. And that's how they link that. I mean, that they give you. Then you understand why they had monkeys growling and biting at each other. I guess it was kind of a transition. But anyway, so it turns out that Dr. Sarah Roberts, when she sees the monkey with her throat ripped out, then she goes, "Oh my God," and runs her fingers through her hair again. And then she stands.
I love her nervous tick. Like whenever she doesn't know what to do, she just runs her fingers through her hair.
Yeah, and then she stands around the cage and smokes a cigarette.
Nice.
Tons of smoking going on. And then we go back to John and Miriam, and they're burning the bodies of their victims in the giant furnace underneath their fancy mansion. And then also you see John running his hands through his hair a lot in the movie. And John and Miriam take a shower together because you need to once you have drunk a bunch of people's blood. Yeah. And he asks, forever and ever. He asks her in his very sexy David Bowie
voice, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then they have sex. There's a lot of the sex in the movie too. And while Miriam is sleeping after sex, it's revealed that John has insomnia, and that is the very first clue that you have that something is wrong. and he starts having a flashback. And then you find, through the flashbacks, you find out that Miriam met him in the 18th century. He was a celloist, and she was his music teacher. And she changed him into a vampire in a horse stable and promised him forever and ever.
Aww.
In her very sexy, sultry voice. So in between all of those flashbacks, because it's a very artsy film, we also go back and forth to Dr. Sarah Roberts too, and you find out that she is a doctor who is researching aging, and this is going to come up in a bit, why that's important. And she's working on a cure for progeria, the rapid aging.
Yeah.
And the director did this really cool thing too. Apparently during the time that progeria was just getting into the news, and there were only 4 known cases of progeria, and the director felt it was inappropriate to show photographs of those children. So he had an artist do some really creepy drawings of children with progeria. But the thought behind feeling it was inappropriate to show pictures of the real children, I think was...
Yeah, that's cool.
I have a question about the drawings, though. Are they more or less creepy than the old-looking children in Akira? Because that's what I'm picturing when it comes to these drawings.
It would probably be the Akira drawings, only shaded with pencil, and somehow that makes it look really bad.
Okay.
It was just not super well done.
Okay.
Just a bad drawing sort of way.
Bad drawings, yeah. So let's see. So we're back at the Blaylocks, and John looks like shit. His hair is all disheveled, and he has bags under his eyes, and when he's trying to play his cello, he messes up, and Miriam keeps on looking at him like she's worried. So again, if you didn't get it before that something was wrong because he couldn't go to sleep, you definitely know something's wrong now. And he's a vampire. He's supposed to live forever. So that's really weird that he would not be doing well.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, I always think it's funny when a vampire gets sick in a movie for some mystical reason, and the writer remembers that vampires don't get sick, so the vampire, completely misinterprets all these signs of sickness. I read a book once where a vampire was poisoned and then he felt nauseous, and his solution to fixing his nausea was to eat more, which then results in him throwing up a lot of blood.
Yeah. John's gonna do a little bit of that later.
Good.
Blood vomit.
So Miriam knows something's going on, and she goes to see Dr. Roberts at her book signing, and then stares at her with her magic eyes so much that it makes Sarah look up and say, "Did you say something?" Because vampire magic stare, and Miriam said she didn't say anything, but she would like to talk to her. So she agrees, and she agrees to speak with her, and then Miriam walks away, and Dr. Sarah Roberts looks at her with that breathy look, like she's been hooked by a vampire. Hey, honey. So then, when Miriam goes home, she finally tells John the truth about what's wrong with him, and it turns out that she was an Egyptian queen, even though she is as white as porcelain. But that's never addressed. She was a vampire. She was an Egyptian queen, and so her vampireness goes way back. and she had lots of vampire lovers, not just John. And even though she promised every single one of them that they would live forever and ever, and they would be together forever and ever, it turns out that every single one of them has stayed long for some time. Some of them years, some of them decades, some of them centuries. But every single one of them gets to the point where they all age rapidly and shrivel up to bony husks.
Yeah. That's not sexy.
No. And then, of course, John gets really pissed off and scared, and he throws Dr. Roberts' book at Miriam, and then storms off to go see Dr. Roberts to see if she can save him. But she thinks that he's just a crackpot, to use their term, and a dotardly old man, I think is what David Bowie says. And she leaves him. When he confronts her, she says she makes him wait in the lobby for hours while she talks to her colleagues about the monkey that killed his mate. They have footage of this monkey aging 5 years every minute until the monkey just crumbles to dust. And they do that artsy thing again where it's the monkey and then it goes back to John waiting in the lounge, it's back to the monkey, and John getting older in the lounge, and then going back to the monkey, and John getting even older, running his fingers through his hair, but this time hair comes out in his hand.
That's always extremely unnerving.
The aging that quickly?
Well, just the image of the running finger through your hair and then like a giant clump of hair.
That and like teeth falling out or like fingernails falling off.
They missed that opportunity. They didn't do either one of those. And then when he realizes that it's been 2 hours that he's been sitting there, he storms off again. He does a lot of storming off. He storms off again, even though he's a little bit frail. He storms off and he bumps into her in the hallway, and she realizes that she messed up, and she could have been studying this guy, and he storms off and leaves. And Kel, this is where he starts craving blood. I think because he thinks, if I just drink some blood, maybe I'll get young again. And there's this one time where he passes a guy and gives him that hungry eyes look, and the guy looks at him back, like gives him the I'm straight look, and then looks away and shakes his head like he's going stupid old gay man.
Oh no, his powers aren't working.
Nope. And then John checks out some woman's heaving, blood-pumping chest, and it doesn't attack her because there's too many people around. So then, as he's walking on the street, he sees this awesome guy with long, shaggy hair on roller skates, and he's dancing around his boombox. And he's dancing to Iggy Pop's Fun Time.
If there's anything that vampires can't resist, it is Iggy Pop's Fun Time.
And a guy on roller skates. So John jumps onto him and there's some struggling, and there's the taking the sheath off of the tiny onk knife, and he does cut him, but then the guy just he gets away from him, and he just looks up at John and just calls him a cunt, and then runs away. So then John pouts. He goes home and he pouts and he pouts and he hides. And he's home alone. But so Miriam is still a music teacher, and one of her students, this tomboy named Alice, comes by, and he tries to get her to go away, but she says that she wants to leave Miriam a note. And he is still hungry. And he's known this girl for a year. but he still lets her in and convinces her to play her violin for him. She doesn't know that it's John. She thinks that she asks questions like, "Are you John's dad?" And he denies and denies, and just she thinks that he's just this old friend of theirs. And when she agrees to play the violin, John sneaks up behind her and cuts her neck and drinks her blood.
Eating time.
Yeah. So then Miriam comes home, and when she walks into the music room, John is still sitting there, still very wrinkled and pissed off, disappointed in her, and shames her for lying to him when she said that they were supposed to be together forever and ever. Forever together, forever young. She lied to him. And then he asks her to kiss him, and she is so repulsed by this idea and does try to kiss him, but then she says, "I can't do it, I can't do it." So she's more disgusted kissing John than she is of drinking dead people's blood.
Because being old is gross.
Yeah, apparently.
I guess to a vampire that'd be super gross.
And
how
then,
is it? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was saying is how is it that I have seen a vampire's kiss, but I haven't seen this movie?
I don't know.
Why have I seen terrible vampire movies, but not ones that sound good?
Vampire's Kiss is a great movie. I would not say this is a vampire movie, but it is Nicolas Cage is crazy and thinks he's a vampire, but there are no actual vampires in the movie.
And I didn't remember that, but I want to watch it again.
I love when he says
I'm
that.
just mad that I've seen that one, but I haven't seen this David Bowie one. I thought I knew all
way
about
better. This one's way better, and even though I'm telling you the whole story, it's still worth a watch.
Yeah, I still want to watch it.
I'm just thinking of Nicolas Cage saying the alphabet.
I don't remember that.
Oh, it's basically his secretary messes up like filing because she puts stuff in not alphabetical order, and he's basically being terrible and berating his secretary, but he says the entire alphabet in an extremely angry tone.
Oh, that doesn't sound familiar.
The only thing I remember about Vampire's Kiss is him wearing fake plastic vampire teeth and going a lot.
Yeah. And Miriam and John really are vampires in this movie.
Yeah.
There's no faking. Except that it's a movie. And Miriam does find out that he killed Alice. And she goes down into the basement and she burns her body. And then John follows her. And I can't tell if he throws himself down the stairs or accidentally falls down the stairs because he just is getting weaker and weaker. But when he does, she picks him up like he's light as a feather and carries. I don't understand this mansion. She carries him up, carries him up an elevator, and then she still has to go up several flights of stairs. And then there's another set of stairs off elsewhere that she has to go up.
Maybe she lives in an MC Escher mansion.
Yeah. And in this attic, there's wind and curtains blowing around, and there's tons of pigeons. So it's not being taken well care of. And there's a bunch of coffins stacked up all around. And she lays John inside an empty coffin, and then it's revealed to the viewers that every one of these coffins is filled with all of her past lovers and all of them are still alive, trapped in
jeez.
these
So that's not creepy at all.
It's all old and still alive. Oh,
yeah, and all just trapped in a coffin.
that's terrifying.
So then, now that John's
Some
out of the
echo
way,
on your end, Ma'at.
what?
You're echoing. So.
I am. Okay.
I don't hear anything.
Now it's fixed. So.
It's probably because I'm talking really loud. Oh wait, there is. I don't understand why.
Tyler listening to you in the other room.
I don't think so.
All right. I think it's done.
Okay.
All right, keep going.
Okay. Oh, it's still echoing.
I don't hear any echo.
It might be you're the one echoing.
Oh, maybe that's happened before. I don't know how to fix it.
All right, just keep going.
Okay. So then, now that John's out of the way, Dr. Sarah Roberts comes in, and she rings the doorbell, runs her fingers through her hair, and asks Miriam about John. But that's not really why she's there. She's there because she was enthralled. But she writes her phone number down on a piece of paper and gives it to Miriam and leaves. Because Miriam sees a police officer coming up. Lieutenant Della Gretza, I think is how he said it. Anyway, he asks about Alice, and he walks around the house like Columbo, chatting with Miriam, just small talk with Miriam, and Miriam is distracted because she keeps on seeing Dr. Sarah Roberts walking dreamily down the sidewalk. And she sees an 18-wheeler about to hit Dr. Sarah Roberts. She takes her piece of paper with the phone number on it and presses it to her chest, and somehow, miraculously, stops the 18-wheeler from hitting Dr. Sarah Roberts when she goes to cross the street.
Vampire powers.
Totally. And then there's this weird thing where Dr. Sarah Roberts, every time she just keeps on hearing this phone ring. Like the old school phones, just ring, ring, and she asks her boyfriend to get the phone, and he is all and just keeps looking at himself in the mirror while he's putting on my respect my authority glasses on in the mirror. He's looking at himself in the mirror. He's too busy, but there's no phone ringing. And she goes to work and she hears the phone. She's answering the phone. And her coworker is all there. The phone never rang. So for some reason, this brings her back to Miriam's house. And on the pretext of asking about John. And Miriam offers her sherry. And even though she tells Miriam that she doesn't like sherry, Miriam insists, "You'll like this sherry," which shows that she's just so respectful of her. She would be such a great person to live the rest of your life with.
Yeah, that just makes me think of Archer force feeding Cheryl frozen yogurt. She was lactose intolerant.
Yeah, it actually gives Dr. Sarah Roberts a headache, it turns out, as her boyfriend points out. So then there's this scene where they're having small talk while Miriam is playing some beautiful music on the piano, and Dr. Roberts gives Miriam puppy dog eyes and compliments her on her Ankh pendant. Dun, dun, dun. And then she spills sherry on her white shirt after asking, "Are you making a pass at me, Mrs. Blaylock?" And then the choir comes in while Dr. Roberts rubs the stain off her chest in slow motion and undresses in front of Mrs. Blaylock.
This is amazing.
And then they get it on, and lesbians, bisexuals, and pansexual women everywhere say hallelujah. But while during this sex scene, there's some other music that starts to come in over the choir singing, and it gets really sinister. And then they intercut these scenes between them having a nice sexual relationship, and then Miriam sucking blood off of Dr. Roberts' arm, and then making Dr. Roberts suck the blood off of her arm.
So does Dr. Roberts become a vampire because of this lesbian experience?
Yes.
Exactly. I guess if you wanted to find someone to fix the aging problem, she's a good candidate for that.
Yep. But she doesn't. This is very different from how she recruited John to be a vampire. She seemed to be very open with him. She didn't tell this lady anything at all. She has no idea what's going on. And apparently she doesn't even remember sucking Miriam's blood or Miriam sucking her blood. And Dr. Roberts' boyfriend is very jealous and very suspicious. He doesn't think that she's becoming a vampire. He just thinks that she cheated on him because she was gone for 3.5 hours.
Oh, jeez.
Clearly that is a sign of cheating.
You gotta watch out for those pansexual vampires.
Yeah. And he says several times, "What's wrong with you?" and gaslights her and tells her that she needs to see a doctor. But
I have a question though. Does that count as gaslighting? Because it seems like turning into a vampire would make you act weird.
she's not. She had just.
But she was only gone for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Right. I thought that maybe this was a longer scene where he witnesses her behaving oddly and then.
No, I think it was just poor writing.
Okay.
Because she doesn't even look sick. She doesn't look like anything's wrong. Her appetite, she sent some food back and ordered different food, but so what? They're at a restaurant.
Vampire.
Yeah.
You're not eating very well. Are you a vampire? Why didn't you tell me?
Clearly, this is the only explanation of.
How dare you not tell me?
And she does end up puking in the toilet that night. That's when she gets sick. But her boyfriend doesn't take her to the hospital. He takes her to their work.
Of course.
And does a blood test on her. Because that's logical.
Well, doctors are so expensive.
Yeah. And then they see that there's a wound on her arm, but that she doesn't remember where it came from, and they test her blood, and they say that there is an alien strain overtaking her blood. Her blood is losing this battle. So she runs to Miriam's and confronts her. And Miriam tells her exactly what's going on without saying the word vampire. Still, she tells her basically that she's turning into a vampire and that she's Miriam's. You're mine now. And Sarah does attack Miriam, but then Miriam shows how much stronger she is. She lifts her up and then throws her across the room like nothing. So then Dr. Roberts leaves Miriam's house and goes to call her boyfriend on a payphone because those
payphones
in the 80s.
Yeah.
and then, but she doesn't get through to her boyfriend. But Willem Dafoe just shows up.
Willem Dafoe?
Yeah.
So now we've connected the two movies. This is the William Dafoe double feature. Last time we did a double feature, it was the Kory Haim double feature.
He has one line, and it's, "Hey, lady, how about it?"
I'm sure he says it in a very Willem Dafoe manner.
He looks super young, too.
Oh, Babby Dafoe.
And that's the only time you see him.
Good.
He's right there at the payphone.
Excellent.
And she's desperate and weak, so she goes back to Miriam's house. It really feels like the only reason they did that is so they could get Willem Dafoe in.
I was going to ask if she bit him, and then maybe we can connect these in continuity, and that's how William Dafoe became a vampire.
That would be awesome. When she gets she gets Miriam's house, and she just writhes around on the bed, and it gets super sweaty. That's her turning into a vampire.
Okay.
And Miriam goes and she picks up a male prostitute for Dr. Roberts to suck his blood, but she doesn't do it. She refuses to do it. She refuses to drink anyone's blood until her boyfriend shows up at Miriam's house asking about her and finds her writhing around on her bed and on the floor, sweating more sweat. And then that's when Sarah takes off her little ankh, unsheaths the tiny little blade, and drinks his blood and kills her boyfriend. And it seems like that would be the end of the movie, but it's not.
Seems like this movie should have been ended for like a couple times. I thought it was gonna end with the whole all of her old lovers are still alive.
Yeah, no, I think that would be a great, like, super unnerving, like, thing to end on, but
Nope, it doesn't end there.
So it keeps going.
Miriam is super proud of her and says that they'll be together forever and ever.
That's a lie.
They kiss. And while they're kissing, Sarah unsheaths her little ankh knife, and stabs herself in the neck,
Ooh.
which then makes this blood pour into Miriam's mouth and down their chests. And Miriam is freaked out, drinking all this blood, and says to Sarah as she lays on the floor, stay with me, and Sarah says she can't. So then we have the scene of Miriam picking her up like she weighs a feather, up the elevator and the stairs.
back through the MC Escher passageways.
Yeah, to the attic with all of the coffins, and then Miriam looks around like something's wrong, and the room tilts, and the coffins come out into the center of the attic, and withered bodies start moving around, and then Miriam starts aging.
Oh no.
And starts like doing the whole like backwards thing where they do the film backwards as someone's going like this. So Miriam's going like this, all in backwards. Her own lovers are attacking her, and Sarah survived. Well, actually, I take that back. It appears that Sarah is dying in the attic, and that Miriam has died. And when it looks like Miriam has died, all her lovers just crumble to dust. Finally, they don't have to live in a box anymore. And that looks like it's the end of the movie. And apparently, that was supposed to be the end of the movie, and that is why why Susan Sarandon did the movie, because she liked how you're tempted with this awesome thing, but then it means you have to be a horrible person to have this awesome thing, and Sarah didn't want to do that. She refused to do that and killed herself. That's why she did the movie. But then when they did the whole review thing with viewers,
Oh yeah, the test audiences.
They decided to add another piece on. And
I have to. How far into the movie are we? Like, so when you say they add another piece on, is that like a 5-minute scene, or did they add like a full other half hour?
Yeah, it's like a 5-minute scene.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's that Sarah did survive, and she has 2 lovers, and she's living in Venice or something.
So she becomes the next like queen vampire.
Yep.
Dun dun dun.
Scene. The end.
That's a pretty dumb ending.
Yeah, she doesn't like that ending.
I gotta say that I much prefer the let's end it at all her lovers are in coffins in the attic.
Dun 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 dun.
Yeah, and Susan and Sarah might die too someday unless she can find a cure.
That's.
But she's an aging doctor, so she could figure it out.
Yeah. or for it to end where she committed suicide. Either one would have been cool.
Yeah. I can't believe that I hadn't heard of this movie. I know I said that like a million times already, but still, I'm surprised. I thought I knew all of David Bowie's movies.
It's a good one.
I'm gonna have to watch it.
have to watch it.
I'll see if Movie Madness has it, maybe.
If they do, Kory, then tell me and I'll come over and we'll watch it.
Okay.
I still have the disc. It's sitting on my Xbox.
How long do you have it for?
For as long as...
It's Netflix.
Yeah, it's Netflix.
You have it until you want a new movie, right?
Right.
I haven't gotten the disc from Netflix in friggin' ages.
Well, then we should maybe plan something for next week or the week after.
Okay.
All right. I feel like we've gone for an hour, so this is a good place to stop. Like,
Done for an hour and 15 minutes. Sorry, y'all.
You just love that movie so much.
I do.
it sounds like a great movie.
I'm glad we ended on the good movie and not the crappy-ass Daybreakers that I hate so much and just is really frustrating, and I hate that movie.
I want the soundtrack to the movie, too.
I'm just thinking, like, it sounds like it's probably a super duper weird movie, but also really great to watch.
I love 80s
It is
supernatural
super,
weird movies.
Yeah, it's super artsy, 80s artsy, good. But here's what Tony Scott did right after this movie. He filmed Top Gun. And, oh my goodness, what was the other movie? Oh, geez. I wrote it down. He did Top Gun, which is totally not anything like it. And Beverly Hills Cop 2.
Quite a departure.
I feel like the thing that Top Gun and this movie probably have in common is hands running through hair.
Is that in Top Gun 2?
How many shirtless guys are in The Hunger?
I think just the roller skater guy.
Oh, that's disappointing.
Because I do think that the volleyball scene in Top Gun is one of the most homoerotic things I've ever seen in a movie. It's a lot of shirtless.
It's very bisexual, pansexual.
I like that.
So maybe this director understands that all movies need a bit more queerness in them.
Yeah.
Whether it's so explicitly stated or not. Because I feel like Top Gun is a pretty homoerotic movie overall.
Yeah.
And that's a good note to end on. Homoerotic movie. Thanks everyone for watching.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks.
Next episode's in 2 weeks, so that's the 21st.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.